When you watch a courtroom drama on TV, you kind of think it's all about some surprise witness or a dramatic last-minute confession, right? Well, the reality, it is way, way more calculated. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the actual playbook that top lawyers use to win these high-stakes cases. It's less about chaos and a lot more about a masterfully played game.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? How are these intense, high-stakes court cases really won? And listen, if your first thought is a gotcha moment with a surprise piece of evidence, you might want to think again. The real work, the stuff that actually changes the game, happens long, long before anyone ever sets foot inside that courtroom. And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. Winning these battles isn't just about having the facts on your side. Nope, it is about executing a psychological playbook. It's this incredibly sophisticated game plan that weaves together legal strategy, powerful storytelling, and, maybe most importantly, a deep understanding of human perception. So let's break down exactly how that playbook works, starting right at the beginning, the foundation.
Okay, so every single winning strategy has to start with an unbreachable foundation. You can't even think about going on the attack until you know your own position is absolutely rock solid. This is all that meticulous, behind-the-scenes work that, honestly, sets the stage for everything that follows.
This foundation really rests on three critical pillars. First up, meticulous data collection. We're talking about gathering every single document, emails, financials, you name it, to build this fortress of facts. Second, you've got strategic witness identification. And this isn't just finding a few friendly faces. It's about carefully selecting people who can credibly and powerfully speak to your client's character. And third, bringing in the big guns, authoritative expert testimony. This is where you engage specialists, like a forensic accountant, to just add this powerful layer of objective credibility to all your claims.
But here's the thing, how do you know if that foundation you've built is actually strong enough? You gotta stress test it. This is a pro move. Top lawyers run internal mock trials for one simple reason, to find every single weakness in their own arguments before the other side gets a chance to. It's all about finding those cracks and fixing them before the real battle even begins.
All right, once that solid defense is in place, the strategy shifts. Now it's time to think about offense. But we're not talking about just throwing wild punches. This is about mastering the art of redirection. And this, my friends, is where the playbook gets really, really clever.
Which brings us to this awesome concept called legal jujitsu. Think about the martial art, right? The whole point is to use your opponent's own energy and momentum against them. Well, in court, it's the exact same idea. Instead of directly fighting back against an accusation, a smart lawyer redirects it, turning the opponent's own claims into a tool to actually dismantle their credibility. And this slide illustrates the difference perfectly. Look at the left side, the direct attack. Yelling, "My client is not emotionally unstable," just sounds defensive, and it keeps the focus right on the accusation. But now, look at the legal jujitsu approach on the right. The other side says your client is unstable. The response is, "My client proactively sought therapy to manage stress." You see what just happened there? That accusation was completely flipped and converted into proof of responsibility and self-awareness. That is a total game changer.
But here's the thing. Facts and these clever tactics, they're not always enough on their own. The most effective lawyers, they know that judges and juries are human beings. So to truly win, you have to connect with them on a human level. And you do that by crafting a compelling and believable story.
Now, a winning story isn't just a random list of events. No way. It has a very clear narrative arc, almost like you're watching a movie. It starts at the beginning by establishing the client's good character and their stability before all the trouble started. Then you get to the middle, where you walk through the dispute logically, making sure every single point is anchored to a piece of evidence. And finally, the end, where you present this hopeful, constructive vision for the future, showing that your client is forward-looking and ready to move on. So what are the keys to making this story so powerful? Well, it really boils down to three essential ingredients. First, you have to humanize your client, make them relatable. Second, absolute factual consistency. Every single claim you make has to be backed up by proof. And third, authentic emotion. The goal here is to show real impact, but without being over the top. We're aiming for credibility, not melodrama.
This brings us to a really crucial battleground that's often totally invisible, the client's own mindset. A huge part of a lawyer's strategy is actually managing their client's emotions and public perception, because how a client comes across can be just as important as the evidence itself.
Just look at the contrast here. It's night and day. On one side, you have the reactive client. This is someone acting out of anger, fear, or frustration. They just appear defensive and unreasonable. And let me tell you, courts do not respond well to that. But then, on the other side, you have the reasonable client, the one who's been coached to respond with calm neutrality. They appear credible and solution-focused. The key takeaway here is that lawyers actively work to guide their clients from that left column over to the right.
So, what if the other side has a legitimate point about your client's past behavior? Well, the Playbook has an answer for that too. It's called rehabilitation. A good lawyer will guide their client to take proactive steps, like attending therapy or parenting courses, and then document everything. This whole journey is then presented not as some admission of guilt, but as powerful evidence of maturity, accountability, and real positive growth.
All right, finally we get to the end game. Because you know what? Not all cases end in some dramatic trial. A lot of them are actually won or lost at the negotiation table. And this is where all that earlier prep, the solid defense, the compelling story, the client's calm mindset, all of it comes together to create some serious leverage.
To be a good negotiator, you have to know your BATNA. It's an acronym, and it stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. What does that mean in simple terms? It is your ultimate plan B. It's the absolute best you can do if you get up and walk away from the table. Knowing your BATNA with total clarity, that is the source of all your power in a negotiation. It tells you exactly when to take a deal and when to say, no thanks.
So, once you're armed with your BATNA, the tactics become pretty clear. You can now assess your opponent's real goals and their weaknesses. You can start offering compromises that might seem generous, but actually cleverly protect what's most important to you. The whole goal is to use the negotiation to get a certain, favorable outcome, instead of just rolling the dice with the wild uncertainty of a trial. Okay, let's put this all together in a quick cheat sheet. The entire playbook really comes down to this. It all starts with a rock-solid defense built on evidence, then it moves to a clever attack using redirection or legal jujitsu. You layer on top of that a compelling story to shape perception, you manage the client's psychology so they appear reasonable, and it all culminates in a strategic negotiation where knowing your BATNA is your ultimate key to victory.
And that brings us to a final thought to leave you with. This whole playbook, from start to finish, is about strategically shaping perception to get a win. It really leaves us with a pretty fascinating and complex question to think about. In a system that is so reliant on narrative and strategy, where exactly do we draw the line between a powerful, winning story and the objective truth?